Hey, I am Molly Adele Brown, and I am an out boss.
Hello, Out Bosses. Rhodes Perry here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Out Entrepreneur, a weekly podcast where I get to interview today's most inspiring LGBTQ bosses crushing it in business. And on this week's episode, we are welcoming Molly Adele Brown, who is calling all the way from Tennessee. So, Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled. I think you are, in fact, our first singer-songwriter on the show. So that's pretty awesome. And I think you might be the first guest calling from Tennessee as well. So very, very cool.
Knocking everything off the list.
I know, right? This is cool. This is awesome. So are you ready to inspire fellow out bosses?
Let's do it.
Cool. All right. So just a little bit about Molly. She is a Nashville-based singer-songwriter who works actively in her community, devoting time and energy to helping the local homeless community. Very awesome. Molly recently released her single and video for Only Human, a song that promotes kindness and acceptance. All of Molly's songs are tied to current events, and I think that is something we need more of in our world today. So, Molly, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit more about being a singer-songwriter and how you see that as, basically being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So honestly, from day one, I knew that the music industry was more than just writing songs and performing. There is an entire business side of this industry that is wild and crazy, but it can be fun as well. And so for me, it was realizing when I have to put on my creative hat, and then when I need to take that off and I really need to put on my boss lady hat and dive in deep to the business side of it all.
Yeah. I was listening. So I'm a sucker for Oprah, and she has this new podcast called Masterclass. And so she was interviewing Bon Jovi, right? Something that was really interesting to me was, he's talking about his journey. And, when he was 25, he had Slippery When Wet was like one of the biggest albums, I think, of all time, top 100. Mm-hmm. And he's like, at 25, when that album went out, I all of a sudden became a CEO of this business. My band became my business. And I'm curious for you, you were talking about the business side of what you do. Explain that for folks who might be listening and kind of scratching their head of like, how is being a singer-songwriter equivalent to being a CEO?
Yeah, of course. So the biggest thing about it all, and I think my biggest takeaway is that at the end of the day, I am a brand. And so every company is a brand in its own light, and it's just how you choose to show it. My difference is I'm not selling a gadget or some sort of toy. What I'm selling is myself. And so the business side of it is making sure that all of your ducks are in a row, and it's having a procedure and a way to get everything done in a timely and orderly manner. So for instance, I go into a co-write and I write a song. And after that, there are a lot more steps that go into making that song become more than just what it was in the room. And so I'm sure some of this might go over some people's heads and some it might understand it completely, but you then need to register your song with the songwriting representation companies. You need to make sure that you've got all of the copyright information that is just correct with you and whoever else is on it. And then from there, it turns into making the production. And from the production, it's the vocals. And so there's just an never-ending list of things that you have to do, and all you think of is the creating of the song, but in reality, there's a ton of business that has to happen in order for that song to reach the ears of everybody else.
Yeah, thank you for walking us through that, because that's what we're all doing. We have an idea, we have a business. It might not be writing songs and performing them, right? But it's still, there's the thing that motivated you to start your business, and then all of the other stuff that you have to deal with. So I think that's really helpful for so many people listening right now. For you, you're a singer-songwriter. I imagine, I don't know much about kind of when you got started, but I imagine music has always kind of been a part of the fabric of who you are. Can you walk us through like the moment that you were like, I know this is my calling and this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life?
Yeah. So I've always had music in kind of a background soundtrack to my life. It's definitely just been there throughout. I can easily say that I was not a very good singer when I was younger. There were a lot of voice lessons, and thank you to my parents for listening to all the bad notes until I got to the good ones. It probably was my middle school years where I went and I saw this production at our local theater, and it was a bunch of kids about my age performing this Broadway show. And I looked at my mom and I said, well, I want to be them. And so she signed me up for the next round of auditions, and I got in the show. And so then from there on out, it was just show after show. And I wanted to be on stage. There was nothing else that had that same thrilling feeling. And so I knew that that's what I wanted to do. What's crazy, and this is why everybody's journey can be so different. And you might think that you're doing one thing today and tomorrow that might change. And that is okay. That's my biggest thing, is you need to be all right with your journey changing. And so in college, I really got kind of fed up with the Broadway world and a little bit beaten down by it. And so I started thinking, why do I have to perform as a character on stage? What if I just want to perform as myself? And so from there, the whole process of becoming a singer-songwriter began, and I started to really do this on my own and figure out that I could be my own character. And so that is when my dreams shifted from being on a Broadway stage to being in arenas and performing in that stage light instead.
I love what you just said, where you need to be okay with your journey shifting. And as you're speaking, and so much about who you are as a singer-songwriter and how much you give back to community. I don't know. I was just thinking of Lady Gaga and, her new movie, A Star Is Born. But one thing that I learned about her and her journey is that she was trained as a kind of classical actor, right?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what you were just describing. She kind of transformed, and I want to be myself. I want to perform. I want to sing. And Lady Gaga was born, right? And so, mostly because she didn't like auditioning. She was like, I was pretty good at the acting piece, but
one of the camps that I went to as a kid, and there was a teacher there who didn't believe in her and told her that she should probably stop that career entirely. And that moment happened for me in college. And that's what kind of fueled me to even want it more.
Yeah. Sometimes you have the naysayers, and throughout the many episodes of this show, that's sometimes a big motivator when people are kind of like, wait, your idea is what? And you're going to do what? And so long as you have that belief in yourself, that's huge. And you just have to have that discipline to continue getting better and better at whatever your craft is. And I'm really, really grateful that you're out there continuing to write and sing and perform songs, because you're doing really amazing work. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is that when you're creating your music, there's so many more people involved than just yourself, because you're so committed to LGBT communities and really, like, as you said, kind of tying your songs to current events. I'm curious how you create kind of this network of people helping you produce your music in terms of really being intentional of creating an inclusive culture, making sure that the people that you hire or the people that are part of helping you get your music out in the world have access to good jobs. And how do you surround yourself with good people, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a couple little tricks that I try to do to make sure that I'm, one, being inclusive and being smart, and knowing that I am still a young business and a young artist in that sense. So I need to be smart about spending and whatnot. But my biggest thing is I try at first to make sure that I am being as inclusive as possible. I want everybody to have an opportunity. And I think that's one of my biggest things is I can't wait until I'm big enough to then turn around and put my hand out and say, come on, join this ride with me. Because there's so many artists that need just that one hand and will make it at that point. But for me at this moment, how I surround myself with the right people is I make sure. I actually did this when I first moved to Nashville. Every time I kind of met somebody new, and I've now realized I don't have to do it as much, but I would introduce myself and I'd say hello, and I'd be like, just so you know, I'm gay. And if you're not cool with that, I'm just going to walk away now so we don't have any problems.
Nice.
Before we get into a serious relationship, because that is what music becomes. And everybody you work with is such an integral part. And the last thing I want is to know that the person on the other end of whatever that job is not giving their all because they don't believe in me or they don't believe that I deserve the rights that I do deserve.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really
yeah.
a weird step. I'm going to tell you, it's a strange step to take. But now that I've done it a bunch of times, it's simple and easy, and it clears the air and then lets me not focus in on that and focus in on what we're trying to do. And that's to kind of spread kindness and acceptance. And so
Yeah.
I can't be mad about it.
It's so powerful, and it's a risk, right? We talk about that a lot on the show is, each and every time we come out and we know that that's not a static thing, it is a risk because for some people you do repel them because they don't know enough about our communities and they're scared or wherever their kind of phobias come from, you do repel some people. And I think that's amazing that you're leading with, I'm a part of the rainbow family, and if you like it, great. We're going to work together. If not, no big deal. I don't have to work with someone who's not going to accept all of who I am. I'm curious. I don't know if this is a generational thing, but it's just like seeing, younger artists, younger musicians really not only producing music, but also leading with giving back and being purposeful in how their music can help open up minds and hearts. Are there certain artists that have influenced how you show up as a performer?
I'd say right now, there's 3 artists that really have cultivated my heart, my passion, and my drive. The first one is going to be Carole King. She was a trailblazer.
Yeah.
She really just opened up doors of opportunities that would have never been opened if it weren't for her. So I admire her courage. And then another one would be Andy Grammer. He brings a light, a love, and a presence to the stage. And so every time I take the stage, I try to think, is this in the vein of what he would do? Because I've seen him perform live multiple times, and every time I leave feeling better. And that's just such a cool feeling to have. And then lastly, I would say Brandi Carlile. She is an advocate. She is a lover. She is here for a good reason. And so I've had multiple occasions where she has brought other younger artists up and given them opportunities that bigger companies and men in general are not giving the girls in the music industry, because we are so easily looked over and the charts are so filled with men. And Brandi Carlile is one of those artists that brings attention to it and doesn't stand for that and shows her disagreements with it all.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge where you have people that are kind of like speaking truth to power. And you had said earlier that you're willing to kind of put out your hand and really give younger artists an opportunity. I'm curious, are there artists who have done that for you? And when they have, kind of what doors has that opened for you?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There are so many cases where somebody has believed in me and that has led to so many doors opening. My first ever written song was because I was actually on a casting call. I worked for this casting company out in New York, and this woman, Nefertiti Jones, was the one I was working with for the day. And so she said, well, if you could do anything in life, what would it be? And I said, singer-songwriter. And honestly, I'd really never said it out loud before that moment. And she said, oh, that's funny. My husband and I are producer and writers, and they literally do it all according to the music industry. And so she said, why don't you come on over and let's meet and see? And so they gave me the chance, and they wrote with me, and they wrote my first 10 songs that I've ever had written. And they gave me the chance that really I would not have had. And they helped me as far as just knowing what to do and, how to approach things. And so I really owe them a huge thank you. And it's crazy because the same thing happened also when I moved to Nashville. I met this group downtown, and they instantly were like, no, you're here. You understand the business. That was their biggest compliment. They're like, you get the business side of this, and we believe in you. So they started writing with me. And it was funny. I looked back in my email, and a year ago, about 2 weeks ago, I had written them an email, and I said, hey, Tim, I'm not sure if you would be interested, but I would love to write with you one day, or even just sit in on a co-write. And it's so funny because the relationship from then to now has led to so many things. I've been on Nashville's TV show Today in Nashville. I just got a write-up in the Washington Post. Like, so many doors that would just not have ever happened because somebody said, yeah, we'll take a minute. We'll learn about you and give it a try. So it's that type of industry where if you're willing and if you're able, you have to, because it'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah, you've said so many powerful things, but two of which really kind of like stuck out for me. One is that you're brave enough just to ask for those opportunities. And I think for so many of us, we just sometimes sit on our hands when the opportunity of like, there's someone right here in front of me. If I just asked, or if I just told them what I do, these opportunities open up, which is the second thing that I think is so powerful. You know, the first time that you said out loud, I'm a singer-songwriter. You said it yourself. You know, you identified the way that you want the world to see you. And from that moment, you know, these opportunities have been opening up to you. So this is just super, super powerful, and a good reminder that if we want something in our life, we have to ask for it. And if we want people to see us in a certain way, we have to share that narrative of how we want to be seen in the world. So kudos to you for doing that. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
One other question that I have for you, just related to your brand and you as an artist and as a musician. Right now, like, what has you most inspired? Like, what's making your heart sing?
What is making my heart sing? Oh, I love it. I think right now, what has really made me just love my day-to-day life is, so I'm getting to write all of these amazing songs with amazing people. I'm getting to learn about all these different people and just grow a community. And I came here really knowing nobody, and all of a sudden I can look around and be like, these people care about me. They know my name because they care about who I am. And so I had my first ever LGBT rainbow show out in Nashville, and had an awesome crowd show up. And I just looked out and I was like, I'm so lucky. Like, I'm so lucky that people took the time and cared. And then I hosted this thing called a kindness cookie bake. And so that's my biggest thing right now is I try to bake cookies minimum once a month. If not, I try to do it every 2 weeks. And then I hand them out to the homeless, because for me, that has just always been something in my life that has made my heart sad. But you also realize that you can make somewhat of a difference, or at least change somebody into a smile for the day, which I think is a big deal. And so I hosted my first, cookie bake, where I invited people to help bake with me. And the outpouring of love that I got from that was amazing. And even the people that couldn't come, that were just like, let me know how I donate. Let me know how I do this. Let me know how I can be involved in the next one. And so it's really cool, because in a time where I see so much negativity and so much hate, I realize if I just start cultivating it, I can really crush all of that with all of the love and the happiness that I have surrounded myself with. But it just takes the time and the effort and the energy to do it.
Exactly. I love that. I love what you're doing. In terms of having the LGBT rainbow concert, right? That you saw that this wasn't happening in Nashville. So why not you, making that happen and bringing other artists together? And I think that's so powerful. And also, in terms of just seeing the need, for people who are homeless or houseless, making, a cookie bake and bringing people together to show like you can make a change, even if it does feel small. You are making a difference. And I think that's really, really powerful, and a good reminder, like you can be that change that you want to see in the world. So
exactly. We
are going to take a very quick sponsorship break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more with Molly. Hey, Outbosses, Rhodes Perry here. As you all know, part of my passion for this podcast is to empower you and fellow LGBT entrepreneurs to cultivate a feeling of purpose and belonging in your business. To know that you can show up and be the most authentic version of yourself. Purpose, belonging, and workplace culture are concepts I take seriously in my own consulting business. In fact, I'm on a mission to empower leaders just like you and those on their way to joining us to cultivate cultures of belonging. In my upcoming book, Belonging at Work, I share some of my personal struggles of coming out as a trans guy in the workplace and how I leverage this experience as one of my business superpowers. Now, I'm on a mission to support you in taking simple actions that will make a world of difference for anyone who has ever felt as if they needed to hide important aspects of themselves on the job. When you commit to purchasing a special, limited edition copy of the book, a portion of your purchase will support expanding workplace opportunities for fellow transgender and non-binary people. An added bonus, your story about what it means to belong at work will be featured on the book's website to inspire others. You're ready to belong at work now. To learn more, visit rhodesonamazon.com or text 444-999 and type the word belong. Again, that's rhodesonamazon.com or text 444-999 and type belong. Okay, Molly, so we are jumping back into the interview. So now is the time that we talk about what brings you to the Rainbow family. And I wanted to lead with asking you a question about being in Nashville, especially when you first were getting started, and just kind of leading with, hey, I am out and I'm a part of the Rainbow family. And if you like it, great. And if not, we're going to kind of part ways. So what is that experience like? Number one, being a woman, and you were talking about just kind of the sexism that exists in the music industry. Layer on top of that, also being a part of the Rainbow family. Like, what are some of the challenges that pop up for you and how have you worked around them?
Yeah. So my first kind of real challenge that I was one of those moments where I just stood still and I was like, did that really just happen? I was in the beginning of dating actually my current girlfriend now. And this guy said to me, you can't be out and in the country music industry, so you better keep that quiet. Wow. And I was like, what? And I was like, first off, let me decide if we're fully dating. I don't know how you even know about this. But obviously it did lead to dating, and 2 years later, we are very happy.
Good.
But it was just that moment of, I didn't realize that would make, a difference. And so I instantly, and not stupidly, but I want to say scared, I did listen to that guy. And for a little bit, I was kind of like, well, I don't know if you should come to my shows, and I don't know what I need to do, and I need to figure this out. And then honestly, it wasn't until I finally was like, wait, why is somebody else dictating my life? And I've always stood up for everybody else. Why am I having trouble standing up for myself?
Yes.
Why is this so hard? And so it was the minute that I decided to change the attitude and throw rainbows wherever I please, and really make sure that it was known that I am out and an advocate and everything, that then things started to take off for the right reasons. I had success before, but the success I'm getting now is based off of more of a love and a humanity and people loving me for me. Whereas before, I think it was just kind of the music industry putting some nice things in my direction. So it's not until I became authentic to who I am that I was able to get these opportunities. Once I moved to Nashville, again, I was definitely a little bit more timid because this is still considered the South, and I love it here, but there are people who think differently. And so I'm realizing that the whole country is all different in the way that they think, and you just need to be safe about what you're doing, but also never be afraid to be who you are, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to shine through. And if a company doesn't want to work with you because of that, then they're not the right company for you. And I've been through a couple of companies, and I definitely realize now that the company that I'm working with loves me for me and is excited by the fact that I'm excited.
Yes.
And so that was another struggle of just figuring out how to get through that barrier.
Yeah. And I think that, the experience that you had with that one person telling you this is the culture of the music industry, country music, and kind of giving you a playbook of rules, and you're kind of looking at it being like, what? And I think that can be an extension for many of us in the Rainbow family of growing up in a world. I mean, definitely for me, I'm probably much older than you are, but, just kind of in a world where, this is the way that you're supposed to live, and these are the people that you're supposed to surround yourself by, da-da-da-da-da. At some point, you get to self-actualize, and you get to look at that playbook again and say, you know what, these rules, it's not working for me, and it's kind of cramping my style. And, you trusted your gut. You're like, you know what, I'm going to do it different. And by doing that that's what makes you stand out, right? That's where people are like, you know what, I want to work with Molly. I want to bring her on board. You're getting the opportunity to have, concerts that are LGBT specific. And I mean, you're having a huge impact, right? So I think that leads nicely into the next question, which is, because of your lived experiences, being a part of Rainbow Family, do you see yourself as having somewhat of a competitive edge because you are a part of our awesome LGBT community, and if so, what are some of those superpowers that you see having that allows you to stand out?
Yeah, I think it almost gives you an energy. I don't want to say an anger because I feel like sometimes people can get frustrated and angry, but I like to use those and fuel my energy. And it really pushes me to want to do more and more and more. And I want to break boundaries and I want to surprise people. And I want, the amount of times that I get the typical, "Are you sure you're gay? You don't look gay." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Do we need to go check?" Like, yes, I'm very positive. And so the amount of times that I'm able to get that jaw drop, like, "What?" response just makes me want to do it more and more until people understand that I'm just being who I am and that is normal, because there is no such thing as a real normal. Mm-hmm. And so if people could just cut that out of their minds, that'd be wonderful. But unfortunately, that's not in the near future. But I do think that that's my superpower. It's using this want to spread love and kindness. And it's using, instead of being afraid of it, it's choosing to be excited by it and to know that you're a part of a change. And right now, there is so much going on. And I went and I voted today because early voting started.
Awesome.
And that is so important.
Yes.
Standing up and speaking out and doing it in your way. And my way is music.
Yeah, I have a shirt on right now from the Victory Fund that says, "Don't get mad, get elected." And elected is in rainbow letters. So that's in the spirit of what you just said. But yeah, I love that. I love, what you're talking about, where this is energy. And you're using that positive energy to smash, the ceilings, the previous ceilings that existed for artists who are women, for artists who are LGBT and country music. And because you are you're giving a possibility model to future singer-songwriters, existing ones, who maybe have been in the industry for forever, but who kind of have not felt that they could be 100% authentic, right? Because of those rules that some people just accepted, so thank you for doing what you do, kind of considering some of the harder things that exist in the worlds that you're in, and also the superpowers that you were talking about. What do you want our listeners to take away to inspire them to be more authentic in their work? For those folks who are artists, writers, what's one piece of advice that you would give those folks?
I think my biggest thing right now would be changing your can'ts to cans. It might look impossible, but nothing is actually impossible. And recently I heard this saying, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. And so I've just started realizing that I've put it into small portions of my life, but I was like, oh, I just wish that when I sang, I sounded like this. And finally I was like, well, if I don't just love my voice for my voice, then why would anybody else? Mm-hmm. So let's stop trying to compare and start looking at it and figuring out what about it I like, and really stop with the camp, because I think that right now is such a barrier, and you need to just break through that. So that would be my biggest thing of entering the workspace and entering your environment and knowing that you are capable of doing what you want to do and however you want to do it. You just need to believe in yourself.
I love that. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. I mean, that's so awesome. And I think also in the world of singing, or music or anything, right? You kind of get trained in a certain way, and you hear other artists and they sound a certain way. And it's almost like you kind of strive to sound like, I don't know, Freddie Mercury or Stevie Nicks or whoever. But it's like,
exactly.
At the end of the day, there's just you have that unique voice. It's like your fingerprint. And again, you just have to trust what's inside of you and know that that's the right sound at some point, right? I mean, there's hitting the note, right? But then
Exactly.
making the note, in your voice. And I think that's an extension to, our businesses or what we're trying to create in the world is that we do at the end of the day, really have to center around trusting ourselves and having that positive belief in like what we're doing and believe that that's actually helping the planet. So I think that's a really, really good reminder. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah. So I have one other question, related to our rainbow family. And that is, it's clear that you give back in so many ways. Can you talk a little bit more about how you use your music and your brand to help LGBT communities specifically?
Yeah. So right now, my biggest goal is, in a way, using social media, which I know sounds crazy, but anybody who owns a business knows how prevalent and important social media is right now, but is using social media to help a broader audience understand what it is that people want and need and feel. And for me, the LGBT community needs to be heard and wants to be seen right now. And so by just taking the minute and the time to really use a platform to help promote change, that's kind of one of the many things that I'm really trying to narrow in on. And so I feel like it might seem like a weird answer, but I definitely think my goal right now at this minute is to use social media to promote change. And then also to just spread acceptance. I've met a lot of people down here who are either afraid to come out or don't think that they can or should. And it's just giving somebody the time and the minutes, literally, and talking to them can make a difference. And so that's really, I'm trying to find the younger crowd, and I have found a couple, and just becoming friends with them because they see that I'm living a life and paying my bills, and they're like, wow, you're like a full adult. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't feel like a full adult, but I am functioning and I can accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish.
Nice.
And so can you, even though it seems really tough right now.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, social media alone, I'm sure, through performing, so many people learn about you and they're like, I want to follow Molly, and just as you're kind of gaining more listeners that way and more adoring fans, you get your message out that way. And I think that's really smart. As a performer, you're leveraging that to kind of raise awareness and more on a micro level, just making those personal connections where you can help for people who may have never met someone who's out before, right? Just kind of dispelling the myths of like, wow, we're just as boring as everybody else sometimes. And
Exactly.
There's nothing to fear, and, just being yourself, that really gives other folks, whether for younger LGBT people who live in the area, just seeing you being out, it's like, I can do that. At some point, I might not be ready now. I might not feel safe enough now, but I can get there. And
Exactly.
for everybody else, you just kind of normalize, or you provide like another idea of what it's like to be LGBT. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool.
And some people, it takes time. I think that's what I've been really trying to focus in on is some younger folks that I know, they're just like, I want it all now. I need the girlfriend or boyfriend now. I need this. I need that. I'm like, you don't need it now.
Right.
You have so many years.
Totally.
Like this isn't a death sentence. This is opening your world to so many opportunities. And once you want to accept the family loves having you.
Yes.
And so you just need to be ready to accept it, and we'll accept you before it. We just want to know that you're making the right choices for yourself and being true and honest, and that's so important.
Yeah. I think like when I think of my younger self, teenagers, it's like one time feels like it goes so slowly. So you just get impatient. And then there's also like whatever you're feeling, it's just like amplified, exponentially because everything is some kind of like drama, So I think like if you can be like, it's okay, you'll get there. Just take your time. It's a good reminder for younger people for sure.
Exactly.
So, and Molly, we're now going to talk a little bit more about mindset and how you kind of work around what I call imposter complex, right? Which is this feeling of, it's all the self-talk. Who am I? I'm not ready yet. My voice doesn't sound like X, Y, or Z. Has that popped up for you as a singer-songwriter? And if so, what are some of the ways that you work around it?
Yeah, that is a weekly occurrence just because I am located in Nashville, Tennessee, the heart of Music City. And that is what we are, Music City. And so I hear phenomenal artists after phenomenal artists all week long. It's amazing. It truly is. But there's definitely those times where you're just like, well, what makes me any better or any different or any more important or more special than any of these other artists? And so what I have to constantly remind myself is that I have different things that make me stand out, and I have different strengths than a lot of people. And so I think for me, it's understanding the business of this is really, really lost on a lot of artists. They don't fully understand that there's more than just writing songs and performing. You want to make this into a crazy career and have the longevity, then you need to understand the business side of it too. And so I just have to keep honing in on you are enough. And I feel like we're often not told that and we forget. And it's like, well, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not skinny enough for this, or pretty enough for that, or that girl's got better looking hair, this one's got that. But at the end of the day, those are just things and attributes. And that's not what makes longevity. And that's not what makes people fall in love with people. It's being human, and it's having something for somebody to relate to. And, I've started to share not all of the happy things, but some happy and some sad things. And I realize that I then get more of a connection, and people call them fans. I call them friends, because that's what everybody ends up being. Is it's a friend of mine that wants to follow my career just as much as I want to follow theirs, whether they are in accounting or a radio host or a baseball player, whatever it may be. It's everybody's journey. And so you can be a fan of anything.
So powerful. I like what you were saying, where it's like, you are enough now. And I think that that's just a really good reminder for people who maybe suffer from being a perfectionist or feeling like they can't get started now because they have to do X, Y, or Z. It's just like, just do a thing, just start getting the momentum in your direction and continue to believe in yourself. And I kind of be friends with some of the self-talk, just know that it's going to be there, and, kind of acknowledge it and keep going,
Oh, just before this interview, I literally spilled a cup of tea, dropped something else, went to go make a coffee, the milk overflowed, everything that was going wrong just went wrong. My dog's barking, and I was like, why do I even deserve any of this? And then I was like, whoa, wait, we just had one of those moments.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a bunch of little tiny things that are piling up. None of them are actually important. And so I was able to walk away and realize and that's okay. I'm enough. I've done enough. Everything is good. And definitely you get those moments more often than not.
Totally. So what's your approach when you get stuck in the work that you're doing? Inevitably, you're trying to get to the next level, trying to get to a big performing arts space where you're like, I want to play at Radio City Music Hall or wherever the thing is. Who do you turn to when you get stuck like that? And, what usually helps allay your concerns?
Personally, I love to do a ridiculous, all-nighter, stay up way too late and just start knocking out all the things on the to-do list, which you're never going to get through your to-do list.
Totally.
So you just have to be okay with that.
Yep.
But I like to do that and then set up 3 meetings with 3 different colleagues, whether they are at your level professionally, above you professionally, or below you professionally. Really doesn't matter, but get 3 meetings on the books and just talk it through. People want to help. You just need to be okay with asking for help. And so that is kind of my go-to is when I get stuck in those really bad moments, just reach out.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you hit it right there, is that people do want to help out, because I'm sure if 3 close friends reached out to you, you'd be like, how can I help you? You'd be there, but you kind of have to get over your own ego to kind of say, wait, I need help now. So who am I going to reach out to? And just be okay with that. I think that's really an excellent reminder. Okay, Outbosses, this is the time when we're going to jump into our bonus round and get a chance to get to know Molly a little bit better, gain some insights on how we can bring our whole selves to work. And then we're going to learn one way and how we can stay in touch with Molly and her awesome music. Molly, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, so here's the first one. Finish the sentence. As an out singer-songwriter, I believe.
We can make a change in the world.
Yes, love it. And do you have a mantra or a quote that you reference that helps you stay motivated in writing really amazing songs?
Spread kindness.
Yes, I love this. Okay, can you share one personal habit that helps you master yourself and your music?
Dancing.
Dancing, I love it, right? You know, I read somewhere that if you dance, that actually helps you live longer. It spreads your longevity. I believe that.
I'm here for it. I believe it.
Yes. Okay, so when you were just getting started, what was like the first thing that you delegated where you're like, I never want to do this again. I'm hiring this person?
Booking.
Yes, right. And what are you most grateful for with being a singer-songwriter who is out?
And accepting family.
Yes, yes. And can you share one piece of advice to inspire the next generation of out bosses, out singers, out musicians, just to take that first entrepreneurial leap?
Stand loud and stand proud.
That's good. That's good. Okay. So Molly, I want to thank you for your time and for inspiring fellow LGBT bosses, entrepreneurs, etc.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we go, where can we learn about you and where can we tune in to listen to your music?
You can find absolutely everything about me on my website, and that includes all my social medias. But my website is www.mollyadelebrown.com.
Awesome. Okay. That will be in the show notes. So, Out Bosses, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. It is always my privilege to connect you with so many inspiring out bosses like Molly. So, for details from today's conversation, to tune in and listen to Molly's music, go over to www.outentrepreneur.com. If you don't want to do that, you can text OUTBOSS to 444-999, and we'll make sure that you're in touch with the show. And as a next step, consider subscribing to the podcast, leaving a rating and review in iTunes, and be sure to share the show with a friend or a loved one if it can help. And as for now, keep being your authentic selves 100% of the time.